Hey guys, welcome. My name is David. I'm the creative director at Ichigoichie. Thank you so much for joining us here talking about Backbeat during Steam Next Fest. We got a lot of great content for you this week, and I hope you're going to join us to take a journey through the game and how we've built it, and let us show you some of the really cool stuff. Today, we're going to be talking about the music of Backbeat and how the music is different in this game, how the music is built by you, the player, and how it's assembled, and what we're looking to provide with Backbeat that takes us one step farther than what most games have done up until the past with how music is used and composed. So Backbeat is a funk-based game. We're built around the music of funk, which is a fantastic genre. It's great for dancing. It can appeal to a large range of people, and it also lends itself to the mechanics that we have that help us with the scoring and some of the unique ways that Backbeat is put together inside of the game. So today we'll be focusing on the music in terms of how it exists inside of the game, and we'll talk a little bit about how the music changes over the course of the game and what controls you as the player have over top of the music in the game. So in Backbeat we have 20 different basic themes, and these are used throughout the 40 levels that the game is composed in. And what we do with these themes is we're kind of taking a journey. We're starting back when funk was first coming on the scene with seminal works like James Brown, and seeing it like being born from the roots of soul and where that got started from. And over the course of the game, the type of funk music that we play and that is presented to the players is evolving as well. So we're taking a journey how the funk becomes more evolved, and it grows and it changes over time. And it's kind of the same journey that funk as a genre has seen passing through time as well. This works with the story because in the story of Backbeat, where our heroine Watts, she has just discovered funk music herself, and it speaks to her very deeply at a deep level. But she doesn't have a lot of technical background in it, and she doesn't have a lot of experience. So in the story, she recruits a band of different players that fill out the parts that know more about the music than she does, whether it's a technical person with Toshi or someone who has incredible performance skills like Chaz with the sax and things like that. And how they work together and how they get better as a band follows this journey that the player also experiences during Backbeat. As the puzzles become more intricate and the more game mechanics are introduced, the level of music also becomes more sophisticated, and we see new steps and bounds about how Watts and her band grow as you also are playing through the game and learning more about how this music is comprised. So with that, we're going to look at the game for a little bit now, and we're going to talk about how the sound is generated, and I'll tell you how we've made the data, the audio data, and then how that is sliced up and recomposed based on your input. So right now I'm going to switch over to the game. Just give me a sec. All right. So in this game, we have the main content that you're going to play through, but I made some special content that we use for checking the audio and also checking how things are coming together. And it's a great way for me to explain some of the concepts to you. So we have some test levels here, and I kind of think of them as like musical dojos, because it's a play for us to play around with the music in each of the themes that are mapped to the different levels. And it allows me to easily check how they sound in different configurations and different kind of puzzle solutions without having to spend a lot of time on working with the actual gameplay. So let's try theme K right now. We're just going to jump in from here from the stage select menu into this temporary setup. All right, so here I am, and I'm in this kind of like dojo where I can have control over the 4 members of the band, Powerslyde: Watts, Toshi, Chaz, and Josh. And each of them plays a different instrument. We start out with Watts. She was an aspiring bassist, and she noodled around a bit when she was younger. Her father was a musician, but she never really got too deep into playing or found something that resonated with her. So in this way, she is the anchor for the band, because the bassist is one that kind of gels everything and keeps it all together, and that's something that her mentor Cliff teaches her in one of the first levels of the game. So she's the bassist, and she's very solid and kind of moves in a way that is very predictable, but later when she develops her superpowers, we kind of get to a point where she becomes kind of more like a vanguard, and she can do some kind of special things. But for now, we're going to focus on the basic stuff, and you can move in any four of the cardinal directions if there's no obstacles in your way. So what I can do is I can push up on the D-pad or on the left stick, and I'm going to hear a couple notes played out. So if I make this move in the grid, then I will have those musical notes recorded and kind of like added to the timeline, which is a record of all of the events that happen during the gameplay when you're solving a puzzle. If I go a different way, there's a different alternative riff kind of played right here. Actually, there's one more. Okay. Okay. So there's three different directions I could go. I mean, I can go four different directions, but there's three alternative kind of takes on this vibe. And the way that it works is we have these entire kind of like images of how these songs could be built, theoretically. And it covers a duration of a number of bars that changes based on the puzzle and the theme and things like that. And inside of these different variations, we have a complete take done with the live funk band of all these different musicians working together. There's three improvisations. And each one of these steps that you take in the game is queuing up a few notes from one of those improvisations. So if I hold up and now push the advance button, she's moved a little bit. And if I go again, there's different notes that could be applied here. I can hear a little preview of what it's going to be like. So if you keep moving in the same direction, then it's going to stick with whatever improvisation that you're currently on, whether 1, 2, or 3. And then if you turn to the left or to the right, then it's going to hop over to one of the improvisations. Now, all of these records of which moves you're making at which time are queued up, and they're kind of saved. I'm not going to do a full song here. I'm just going to do a small little tidbit. So I'm going to take her over, and now she's in the goal, just for a few bars worth of stuff. So if I switch to another character now, Toshi, for example, he behaves in a similar kind of fashion. So when I put out the stick, I have a few beats of notes there as well. And depending on which direction I would be taking, it's going to give me a different kind of improvisation. Now, he behaves a lot like Watts in that he usually moves about 2 tiles per move in the game world, and it consumes about the same amount of time, which is about somewhere between 1.5 and 2 beats in the timeline. So you can see as I'm moving up, his green timeline is increasing, and every time I've changed to a different improvisation, this little triangle is getting drawn into the timeline in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. Now, you're not super conscious of these kind of things when you're solving the puzzle, but later on, some of the mechanics in the game kind of encourage you to make sensible choices about when you're changing direction, when you're doing things with the world, interacting with it. And that's part of how we do the grading, which I'll talk about in a different talk and how that works. But for the purposes of this conversation, so you can control which notes are going to be played as you take a different path. And each one of the puzzles in the game has multiple solutions. And in fact, there's lots of solutions. And these small variations on which way you take is going to have you hopping into a different improvisation. So Chaz is our saxophonist. He's a bit of a prima donna, and he moves a little bit different. So the sax, he has different ways he can go to, but he's only going to move 1 tile at a time. And by moving 1 tile, he is going to get a few notes, and his clips are a bit shorter than Watts and Toshi. So maybe they're about 1.5, 2 beats. Maybe he's about 1 beat or 1.25 beats. So he is good for moving through tight areas and things like that. And he allows you to change things up a lot depending on the puzzle map, but also that you can jump between improvisations much more freely than with one of the others. And finally, Josh, who's the drummer, so he is the rhythm section of the band, and he moves a long distance because every time he moves one way, he's going to play for one whole bar. And he is going to have 6 tiles consumed unless he runs into something like a wall or a trash can, some kind of inanimate object that's in the level. So he's going to be moving between different kinds of rhythm sections. And the thing about drums is you don't want to change drums all the time. So this lends itself naturally to the kind of mechanic where we had that he's going to move farther. You're going to have fewer turns overall with him in terms of the number of decisions you're going to make. And he's always going to end up on a bar someplace. So he's always going to help you later when you're working with like the align mechanic. He's always going to give you a boost with that. But then there's a drawback that you don't have as much control over when you could make him change direction and turn. So there's something you need to work out with the games. Anyway, so he moves around like that, and he's always going to add 1 bar of music. So let's see how this sounds. Get Chaz in there. So now everyone is in the goal area, and when everyone is in the goal, the puzzle is done if you have collected any optional objectives, which is something that comes up later in the game. So once you have the objectives and everyone's in the goal area and you haven't run out of turns, you're done. So then this finish prompt pops up and it's asking you if you're ready to finish your level, if you're ready to commit to your music. So I'm going to push this now, and we're going to hear a playback from all of those individual moves we made, just a few tiles at a time, with each character individually, all synchronized, and it's going to form a funk song. So this is where we're going to see a song kind of be born out of the effort that we made unifying all these players together. Let's see what it sounds like. All right, so that was interesting, and that was a song that was unique based on the way that we moved into the goal when we changed the turns. If someone solves the puzzle another way, a slightly different song with those different improvisations takes over, and that's just the beginning of the kind of things that you can do with the music in Backbeat. So let's go into this again, but this time we're going to introduce a couple other things here. So in this, we will change to a character, and we're going to rewind Toshi here. And let's say, what if instead of doing that path, we ended up doing something where we interact with the environment? Now this level's, like I said, is a dojo. It's a test harness, basically, for us to debug stuff in the game. And these orange cubes are what we call keys. So in the mechanics of the game, keys and doors is a way for you to manipulate the environment to solve the puzzles, and do it in a way that you can aid the other band members, because Backbeat is all about collaboration, and live music is about collaboration. It's about making your partner look good. So how we work these kind of tenets of music into the game is we said, well, what if we can use the doors to unblock other people? And when we do it, this door is a chance to solo. So a musical solo now, and we're going to have a chance for that particular instrument to play and shine and show off their skills. So when you work on a key, in this case, there's no direct effects in the world because there's no doors, but when you're in front of a key on one of these chevron pieces, we get this little hand prompt that pops up, and if you push this, let's see here, you'll notice that the timeline jumped forward, but a whole lot more than it usually does. Usually when we take one step, we're moving 2 beats at a time, and things are moving forward very slowly. But now, when we did this, we said, okay, opening a door takes 4 measures. It's 4 bars. So it's a much longer window of time. And during this window of time, whatever we were doing with that key would then affect a door for the same period of time. So if the red box was a key and it was used to open a door, which was blocking Watts from getting to the goal, she would have a 4-bar window of time to make it through that door to pass through. So now we have to start synchronizing the different threads of time so that what Toshi is doing is going to help Watts, but she has to be there at the right point. And this gets more complicated later when you have like enemies that are maybe held back behind a door, or enemies are going to follow you, chase you down, or maybe you want to stop enemies from getting someplace so someone else can get by and things like that. So it comes down to like distractions and different that kind of jazz. So we have 4 bars now, and it's actually not aligned very well. If you look at the timeline, I just kind of started at an arbitrary point. Ideally, you want to start on an even bar, start on the 1, and do your solo then. And this comes into the mechanics again, which is about making the music sound even better. But even if you started here, it's not going to sound that bad because this is a period of time where we're going to jump into a solo, which we've recorded with our keyboardist, and take out the normal kind of performance he would be doing then. And then also to support that, at that same point in time, we don't want other people sounding too noisy. So we're going to mute some of the other characters, or some going to be playing comping clips and things like that. So let's see how this one solo sounds now. Get him in the goal, and now we're ready to finish again. So we'll push X and hear him jump into this keyboard solo. So if you have a keen ear for music, you might have noticed that some of the transitions are a little bit abrupt in terms of when people appear and disappear, and that's entirely intentional because the way that the puzzles are set up is that we have puzzle designs that kind of guide you and mechanics that make you want to start and stop these things at good points in time. And that will affect your ultimate score because it also affects the music. And what we're doing with Backbeat is we're taking this spatial puzzle and these real-world kind of physical properties and time, and we're tying it into what makes great music. And with all of our games, what we want to do is we want to give you the power to make music with your actions. And we want to help you find ways to improve your music-making skills directly and indirectly, mostly through playing within the game. Our first title, Hexagroove, was the pinnacle of this, where you have a real-time strategy game and you have to throw together EDM loops to keep a crowd dancing. And the crowd is very fickle when they want a new synthesizer, when they want a new drum, or when they want a new bass line. They will ask for it. The UI will change colors and shapes, and you'll be prompted to add these kind of things. But if you add them too early or too late, if you introduce too much change into the music, you're going to get a bad score as a result. And that's something we try to guide you towards, of like finding that just the right amount of change and changing at the right time. And each instrument has different guidelines of when it is a good time. I mean, the drum will last much longer than a really earworm hook, which you could get disappointed and kind of frustrated with rather quickly, actually. So these kind of things are built into it, and we encourage you to have a more musically pleasing result by following these kind of guidelines, even though the freedom still exists of you can pick who you want to do the solo with, whether it's Toshi or it's Chaz, if you want a sax solo versus a keys solo, or whether you want there to be some power moves and things introduced, which is something that I'll show you next. So we'll go into the dojo yet again. And this time we're going to look at power moves. And there's not a whole lot of environment here to do power moves with because there's no enemies and there's no objectives and things like that. But each of the characters later in the game develops a certain kind of power technique. And these power techniques are something that can only be used at a limited amount of time. So there's a cooldown with all of them, and it helps you think about when is the most opportune time to use these. And they're not required, but they're a good way to help you with certain kind of levels to find certain kinds of solutions. So Toshi can do what we call the Powerslyde. So the Powerslyde that he does is, if you notice, I'm moving not 2 tiles right now with my normal movement with him. But when I hold down the power button, the left trigger, then it moves to 3 tiles. And normally Toshi's interesting because he and Watts usually are standing on different tiles in the map. So in that sense, they're like bishops in chess, where they move in the same way, they cover the same distance, but they can reach different areas. But when you move from 2 tiles to 3 tiles, then everything is different. Now he has access to all the other set of rows, which he didn't normally. So this helps him reach things normally he could not get to. It also has the added abilities that he can warp through enemies. So if there was a guard here that was on a patrol path, I can teleport through the guard. If the timing of when he's walking, like if I walk head on into him, I can warp through him and get past. Now, when you do these power moves is based on a cooldown, like I said. So if you threw in like a keyboard slide all the time, it gets really obnoxious. So this is something you need to ration. It's also important to do it at a time which makes sense. Again, like on a bar increment, I can use the Y button to pause, take a rest. And then what that rest is that rest allows me to burn a turn, and I don't go anywhere. So now I've burned a turn, and I'm lined up on this bar, and this is the perfect time now to throw off one of these power slides. So there we go. But my meter is depleted now, so I can only do it once in this short set of a level that we're doing. So another thing is with Chaz, I'll give him a little bit of weights here actually at the beginning. And then he has a super sax which can blow enemies away. He generates these massive licks which are so irresistible, or resistible I guess you could say, that he causes any guards on the guard path to walk off their path and away from him, fleeing for one bar's worth of music. So he's got that kind of way to add that flourish. With Josh, he can actually break through walls, and that will help him get out of some trouble sometimes, and also open up a door that maybe Toshi or somebody else can follow him through. So he kind of has like a Hulk smash and just like crash through the wall. And then finally with Watts, she has a walking bass. So we'll wait here. And then when she has the walking bass, she's entering in a period where for 4 bars, all she will do is play a walking bass on the scale of the song. And this is good because time-wise, she can cover a lot more real estate in a less amount of time, even though it looks like she's tiptoeing. So that's where I was talking about before. From a mechanics standpoint, she becomes kind of like a vanguard where you want to send her ahead, do something in advance before someone else gets there and needs to be helped or assisted, and then take her back. So let's listen to each one of these power moves now together in our song. Okay, so that shows you how having control of both these resource-limited power moves, these solos you can interact with the world, and the normal movement that you do affects the music in a very direct way and produces a very different kind of song. And like I said, all the puzzles in Backbeat are kind of built on rails where there's a general solution in terms of time and space, what you need to accomplish, but how you approach that is up to you, and there's a lot of chance for individualism. So talking more about individualism, one of the great things about Backbeat is that we wanted to give you even more tools at your disposal to change how the music sounds and how you can produce things. So what we've added is 2 sets of vanity unlocks, which don't affect the gameplay but allow you to have a deeper control over the timbre and the effect of things. So if we go into the My Backbeat menu, a number of instrument and pedal effect options that you can apply. So this allows you to add a different kind of timbre or a different kind of voice to each of the instruments. So the effects pedals that you have, once you've unlocked them by doing well enough in the game with a number of like in-game fans following your band's Powerslyde, you can change them with the B button. Oops, wrong one. One sec. All right. So what you can change is you can change the instruments in a limited number of songs. So everything from the theme K and onward, you have access to another instrument, and from L onward, excuse me, from J onward you have one more instrument, from K onward you have two more instruments you can use. So in Watch she has a standard bass, she has a synth bass that you can use on some levels, and she has a slap bass style. So the way that you can play the instrument and the way the instrument sounds is completely different. Josh has breakbeat drums, which you can also use, and as well as a brush kit. Two very different styles to play the game. So let's try just with these right now. We're going to use the slap bass and the brush kit and go back. And we're going to play level K again. But this time, with our existing solution, we're going to hear a different kind of sound coming out of Josh and Watts. So that's pretty cool. With just the same solution, you get to hear a different sound. And of course, you could redo the puzzle if you wanted and experiment with those. Each of the characters has two alternative instruments which you can unlock. And I think it's going to be really exciting to hear you find different kinds of funk music that you can play with your same puzzle solutions using these different instruments. The other thing that you can do in my Backbeat is that you can change and insert effect pedals. Let's see if I can open it up. So here we have an auto wah, and there's a distortion pedal, and there's the clean, and that's what you start out with. And with the effect pedals, you can usually change between a strong and a weak one. So you can hear how the auto wah makes more of like that funky kind of like 70s kind of sound, and you can apply it to the different characters. You can apply it to Toshi as well. Yeah, and then like his instruments all gonna get that more like late classic 70s funk kind of sound. There's 4 different effect pedals that we've built, and which ones are appropriate for which characters are a little bit different, but these are things that you can use anytime you want, even on the first levels in the game, and not just on some of the more advanced ones. So you could add like an auto wah and a distortion and a chorus on each of your different characters and produce a different kind of sound. I think while we're over here, let's turn on the UE for Chaz. I love the UE. Let's see if I can... Oh, one sec. We'll go with the standard bass on Watts. And we'll go with the UE, which is an electronic wind instrument, the synthesizer for sax, for Chaz. All right, and let's hear with this wind instrument and also with these effect pedals on, see how the song sounds. All right, so that was pretty cool. So, as you've seen in Backbeat, there's lots of ways to have customization of the music, and the songs that are played back at the end of every level is like a homage and like a reward for the great solution that you came up with. And that solution is personalized, whether it's about the path that you've taken, or the instrument choices that you've added, or the timing at which you chose to use a solo, how you interacted with the environment with certain characters rather than other. All of these different solutions produce all of these different songs, and all the music sounds really, really cool. And the more that you get used to the mechanics of the game, it sounds better and better and better and better. And we're so excited to hear the songs that you guys are going to come up with and all the solutions that you're going to find in these puzzles that we haven't experimented with yet. So that's a little bit about the music and Backbeat and how you can control it. I hope you'll visit some of our other streams this week. I'll be talking about the game mechanics one time, and scoring and how musical theory comes into that. We'll talk about the art style. We'll show you some other levels, some skin levels, not just these dojos. You can check out all of our schedules from inside of the community hub in Steam for Backbeat. You can also see the schedule up on our social media. I hope you'll follow us, Ichigoichie Inc. on Twitter, Ichigoichie Games on Instagram, and we look forward to hearing from you about what you think about the demo and how you would discover it. And right now we're at an alpha stage, and we're really looking forward to finishing the game up, polishing it up, and sending it off to you so you can play it as soon as possible. So thanks again for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Cheers!